Good afternoon. The greatest apostle in the history of the world is generally considered to be the Apostle Paul. He was the author of 13 books in the New Testament, letters that he wrote to numerous churches. Many of those churches were ones that he actually started, that had their beginning because he visited that area and gathered a group of people to hear the message, and that message was heard, they believed, and they formed a little congregation, a little church in those communities. The Apostle Paul did that work across a wide area of the world. He traveled between these different churches. He had care and compassion for them. He thought about them when he wasn't around. That's what brought the letters back to those churches in the first place. The Apostle Paul was this great missionary, this great proclaimer of the good news of God. And yet even he needed to recognize that he wasn't going to be able to go where God didn't want him to go. He wasn't going to be able to take the message and have every single person hear it and believe it. That's what he hoped for. That's what he prayed for. But he knew that that was not going to be possible. And you and I, we may not be missionaries like the Apostle Paul. We may not be called to go across the world sharing the good news about Jesus, but we can speak to those who are closest to us. And yet we too recognize that there's not always going to be the opportunity, that sometimes it's just not going to be the right moment. They're not going to listen. They're not going to want to give us the time of day when we start speaking about Jesus. Sometimes it's like the door is actually shut on our ability to proclaim that word. The Apostle Paul recognized that and asked for prayers on his behalf when he wrote to the Colossians in chapter 4, verse 3. At the same time, pray for us too, that God might open a door for our message so that we can tell the mystery about Christ, for which I am in prison. He was in prison. That's almost a totally different story. But listen, did you hear what the Apostle Paul was asking for? Prayers that he might have the opportunity to share Christ. Prayers that God might open a door for our message. You can pray for that same thing. Pray that God would open a door for your message. The message about Jesus to take hold in somebody's heart. That you would have the opportunity to share Jesus with somebody else. Pray for that open door, and God will hear and answer that prayer. Until we see each other again, the Lord's blessings on your day.